Guy, is raised and how he's trained and the competition and what the environment that he's used to playing in. It matters. It's not the end all to be all. There's certainly, numerous and countless examples of players who have come from smaller schools that have not had the benefit of being in the big time programs that are just as good, in terms of playing football as those guys from those other programs. It is something that we look at, but again, it's not anything that's the end all to be all to any evaluation. Yeah, it becomes a little bit more of a projection. I think, again, it goes back to the whole idea and the concept of what are we going to ask the guy to do, and in those evaluative opportunities, whether it's in a game situation or here at the combine as he's moving around athletically. You've got to determine what you're looking for and what you're going to ask the guy to do, and then you've got to project in some instances, especially when you talk about the spread offenses or things that guys are doing that aren't necessarily indicative of what you're going to ask him to do in your scheme, but you've got to be able to project in terms of what he's doing and what you're going to ask him to do, and that is a little difficult. It's easy when you can see a guy go do exactly what you're going to ask him to do, and you can evaluate that and judge that. It becomes a little bit more interesting, when you have to project, and that's part of our business. And to the degree that you can do that, because there's so many teams that are running those types of offenses, you better know how to project a little bit to be able to find players that fit into the schemes and the things that you're going to ask them to do offensively and defensively. I think we've had an opportunity to really prepare, right? So we've had an extra week, to get our coaches really introduced to the draft class, and so I think we're more prepared. I think, we worked through our evaluations for our football team. We looked at the free agent class. I've had a chance to introduce them to the draft class, and so I think everybody's a little bit more prepared. Now, you're right on the back end. We'll leave here next week, and all of a sudden free agency is going to be on you pretty quick. But I think we're prepared. So, I think if you use your time wisely and you prepare, I don't know whether it matters much. Well, I think I feel pretty good about it. I think you look at our team. I think 9 of 10 of our first-round picks are still on our football team, so we've had some success at keeping our guys, and that's the way that we've decided to build our football team, and that's through the draft. And we've identified the good young players, and it's not only first-round picks; it's other players that have performed. And so, again, I will tell you that, and I don't say this lightly about the job that Chris Olsen does, and managing our salary cap, putting us in a position to have the chance to keep those players. That's a big part of what we do and how we've decided to manage our football team. And so, I'm confident in that. And then, listen, the reality is that you can't keep, all your good young players. But the balance of your football team is made up of players that you draft, and in that core group, hopefully are players that you've drafted and you've developed, and then they are arrow-up type players, and that you can get those players under contract long term and continue to build your football team. Well, I'm going to go back to what we talked about. There's some types of evaluations are a little bit more definitive than others, in the sense that sometimes you've got a lot of, whether it's a guy playing a spread offense and he's not doing the things that you're going to ask him to do, or whether it's a case where there's not a lot of tape to evaluate at this level, but there was tape to evaluate. And so in both cases, even less in the case of Matt, in terms of NFL play, but that's what we do. We project, we evaluate, and that's how we do our jobs. Our goal is to keep all of our good young players, and DeAndre is a good young player. So yes, we are absolutely intent on re-signing him. When that happens is up for debate, but he's definitely in our plans, and he's an excellent young football player, and I think he's one of those guys that we just talked about that's an arrow up player. And we certainly want to continue to build around him. What we try to do from a salary cap management perspective is we try to write contracts that do a couple of things that are good deals for both sides, that allow the team to maintain our flexibility to continue to improve, because we're constantly trying to improve our football team. And then that continue to, and that's the bottom line. And so that's what we do. And so what we're trying to do is write contracts that give us the flexibility to do anything that we're trying to do. We don't want to be handicapped by salary cap constraints. Now, the truth of the matter is that's the way that it is, right? You can't pay everybody. We just talked about that. And so that's one of the reasons why you can't, keep all of your players, because you've got to allocate resources and dollars in areas and places where you think, are most important. And that's just a part of salary cap management, of roster building, and that's just what we do.